Hello friend, this is Amit. I am here for explaining the concept of Hibernate. So till now we understand the basic concept of Hibernate. We understand we can create a Hibernate project by two ways, either the core act with XML based configuration, either annotation that based configuration. So we already completed two lab that we created one lab with the core that have the HBM Hibernate mapping related thing on XML, and we already created one other annotation that we delete that without HBM file we created with help of the annotation. So this Hibernate 3.1 that we called core, and that annotation that we called annotation that is based on annotation. So we already see that how we can create a project with Hibernate 3.1 with XML based configuration, and how we'll create a annotation based with 3.2 application. Now little bit we try to understand the Hibernate theory parts, means what the feature that Hibernate is provide, and a little bit Hibernate architecture, means how they are means taking our object and storing in the database, this kind of thing. Then it will be very easy to understand the next lab. So once we are able to understand this thing, we will again start to other part. We will try to find out all the solution, and we will start writing other projects. So here I start with the Hibernate features. So I already explained that Hibernate provide many more features. Because of that only this is the best among all other ORM tool like IBAT, Toppling, JDU, other ORM tool is there, but Hibernate is a more famous compared to that tool. So what the feature Hibernate provided, why this Hibernate is become a more famous, and why other tool is not means of famous that much. So because of its features only. So Hibernate system is responsible to taking a connection, creating a statement, and releasing a resource. We already go through that code walk. We check that when we are writing a JDBC code we have a lot of duplication, and where we have to write a connectivity code, we have to release the resource, we have to create a statement, all the thing. But that is create a code duplication problem. And the same if we want to connect, if we want to store the student information, if we want to store the customer information, we have to means use that all the step like taking a connection, creating a statement, and releasing a resource for all the different mappings. So here this thing is unnecessarily. So the Hibernate system is responsible here. Hibernate is taking a connection, Hibernate is creating a statement and releasing a resource. We already see the code how it is happening. So this is the basic means first feature that Hibernate is provided. There Hibernate is responsible to take the connection, create a statement, and release a resource. Other thing is there, Hibernate supported various mapping style. For information we have a big data. Now till now we deal with the only very small data, like we have on customer information, we have a student information. That is okay, we can store this information in the single table. But think about a very big data like that. For example, visual path have many batches where old student is there, new student is there, and weekend student is there, daily student is there, and visual path want to store all the information, all student information in the single database. Then we cannot store all the information in a single database. We have to map that like that. If we want to map with the class like a class we are mapping, so this kind of mapping also provided the Hibernate. If you want to store in the somewhere in the collection like a list set map, then also this type of thing means Hibernate is providing, we can easily store that. So when we are dealing with the big data kind of thing like that, we have to lot of information we have to store. So we cannot store the simple means we create a student and a store there, they must have some mapping concept. So we have to utilize some concept, and through that we can map our data. So here like that simple mapping is there. Simple mapping means we just map our a student with a customer or something, customer with mobile number, email ID. Very simple mapping is there. Other simple mapping, that collection mapping is there. What I explain about that, if we want to store some information, for example, we have one students, we have students who taking admission in Visual Path, or so a student have a many mobile numbers like a 2 or 3, so we want to store there. So now just think about the Pojo classes. We created one phone that is long or something, but how we will store that multiple phone number in the single long instance. So here it will be creating a problem. So here we can create a list kind of thing or set kind of thing. There we can store out that information. So if we have to store the same related information, that we will get the multiple, like email address, we want to store the multiple. For example, any student he participating of 5 different exam, math, science and all, and we want to store all the 5 marks in the single place, that is a marks. So how we can store if it is a long or something, or integer or something? So then this kind of thing we have to create a some collection like a list or something. So but that is related to Java. When we have to store a collection of information in the single place, we can utilize some collection or utility classes. But what about the Hibernate? When we want to map that particular utility classes or the collection information directly the table, how Hibernate dealing with this type of situation? So Hibernate is also providing a collection mapping that have a various collection mapping like a set, map, bag, list. So through that we can handle all kind of the collection. Other than that, inheritance mapping here. So what is inheritance mapping is there? So just think about the inheritance concept in Java. So we have some super class, that subclass is there, and many more classes is there. We want to store the as it is the information that map available in the our Java classes. Then Hibernate also provide this features where we can inherit our data in 3 different way, where they can provide a table per subclass mapping, table per class mapping, and table per concurrent class mapping. Here table per subclass mapping means all the subclass have one table. Table per class mapping means even the subclass or superclass, every class have one table. Table per concurrent class mapping is so means I just want to explain, when we will see the inheritance mapping, we can easily understand how we will inherit the different means inheritance relationship with our database. Here the next type of mapping is association mapping, where they also provided a 3 different type of association mapping, like one-to-one mapping, one-to-many mapping, and many-to-many mapping. One-to-one mapping means one student exactly have one means phone number. Then it will be a created a relation one-to-one. One student have exactly one phone number, or for example one student exactly have one address. So this kind of relationship is one-to-one. One-to-many, again the same scenario. If one student want to store multiple phone number or 2 phone number, then one-to-many relationship is there, because one student have 2 mobile number. And many-to-many means some relationship where many information is mapped with the many other information. So I don't want to explain deeply here. If I explain this kind of thing here, then it will be create a problem. So when we will walk through the code, we will write the code related to this mapping, then we can easily understand. Right now I just try to explain about that, how much features means how what the thing Hibernate is provided, and how we will have to prepare all the thing, and how we will move to the next, and we will gain the we will get the knowledge of complete Hibernate. So here they also provided other mapping type. We will discuss about that. And other thing is that when the terms connection management come, Hibernate generally Hibernate also providing a many type, but I added 2 type here. So basically Hibernate managing a connection 2 way. First is a driver manager connection, and second is a data source connection. So driver manager connection is the way we already did that, and data source connection we will see that how the Hibernate is managing a data source connectivity. Other thing is there, Hibernate support 2 way to manage a transaction. When the transaction management is come, then Hibernate provided a 2 way to manage a transaction. One is a JDBC transaction, that is a by default transaction, and other is a JTA transaction. And this JTA transaction is related to a data source connectivity. Means when we have to use connection type is a data source, then we can utilize a JTA transaction, and it both will be run inside the EJB container or a Spring container. So container management system, inside that container availability is there, then we can utilize a data source connectivity or JTA transaction. I don't want to go deeply because it will be now the basic knowledge about that feature is enough. So Hibernate provide a various primary key generation algorithm. We see that already how the increment is provided. Other than that, various algorithm is there. In the next we will see that how we can change that algorithm. We can utilize UID and other also, and I will also try to show you to how we will generate our algorithm, and we will register it and we can utilize there in our application. So primary key generation algorithm is provided by Hibernate only, and if it is a various algorithm they provided, we can utilize anyone. So very rare chance is there that primary key generation is not fit to our application. If we want to generate our different kind of primary key, then this situation we can implement, that I already told, we can implement our primary key generation algorithm, and we can we can just register it, and through that it will be automatically generate. Means we no need to specify the primary key when we will instantiate object. So primary key algorithm will be take care about that. So other thing is that Hibernate has built-in support of batch update, and that various catching mechanism is there. Means catching means we can say that this is a other means information storing system near to our application. So whenever our application means connecting to the database, it will be some huge transaction, means it will be take some time to connectivity and fetch the data. So sometimes we don't want to round trip between our application to a database. So in this situation we can implement this catching mechanism, and we can reduce the round trip between our application to database. Other thing is there, Hibernate provide a various object oriented query language. So just think about that. If you want to write some SQL, so example, you are a expert of MySQL, and suddenly you got the chance in Oracle and moved there. So you will face the problem when you are you start writing a query, because you are expert of MySQL, and right now Oracle is not supporting a MySQL query. So you have to learn Oracle query again, and it will be create a problem. So what Hibernate is provided? Hibernate is provided a different kind of object oriented query language. Through that it will be automatically generate a query. So this object oriented query is fit for all the database. So basically I am going to explain about HQL here. So most preferred is HQL. Other than is various is there, like a QBC, QB, native query, named query. Many queries provided by Hibernate, but one example we will see that how QBC and QB is working, but in deeply when we will do the some query means fetch the data or some database operation, we will start with the SQL only, because mostly here organization they are using a Hibernate query language SQL only, but we will get the knowledge about other query language also, how means that other query will work. We will get the basic knowledge about that, but in SQL we will get the deep knowledge, and mostly we will once I will explain about the SQL within 2 or 3 hours you will become a expert of the SQL, and you can write any kind of SQL query, because this is object oriented query language, and so you have to just think about few things, and through that you can write any kind of SQL. This is not that much difficult that MySQL or Oracle query we are writing. So other thing is there, Hibernate system use that is a main thing why Hibernate is a very famous. So here Hibernate system use many persistence best practice and force the developer to use them for better performance. Just for the example, when we are going to write a JDBC connectivity code or something, so for example, someone is writing a code that is a very new for a JDBC, so means that framework or JDBC is not providing means how the way they are going to start to write and how they avoid a code duplicity and duplication problem, and where they will utilize design patterns and all kind of thing. So this thing is not available in JDBC, but Hibernate provide this thing. Even in a new version also will come, then they will write a very quality coded, and they will achieve the target is very easy. So I already explained that our complete Hibernate is dependent to that 4 object: configuration, session, factory, session and transaction. This other part is there also. I will explain some after few exercise, lab exercise, because right now this is a little bit difficult to understand about this thing, but this 4 object is almost clear. I explained many time what is this configuration, session, factory, session and transaction, and how it is helping to participate persistence operation. So this is a Hibernate runtime system. Whenever application or our code or something is try to connect with the database, then this 4 object is helping to connect the database and helping to store the information in the database. So I will go through one by one, and I will explain about that what is the configuration, what is a session factory, what is a session, and what is a transaction. So here I start with the configuration or annotation configuration. We already see this thing in our lab, where we created one core application with configuration. After that same application we will convert in the annotation configuration, and we will see that this is a very less effort. Through that we can easily convert our code to annotation. So what exactly configuration or annotation configuration object? So this is the class, that is the only class that is, or we can say that this is the first class that is instantiated during a persistence operation. So so this class is available in org.hibernate.cfd package, and this is the first class that is instantiated by Hibernate application, and we can use configuration or annotation configuration class in 2 tasks, where we are calling a configure method or with the configuration string. So here what happened when we are calling with the configure means a default constructor, then by default it will be use that place means Java default place, and it will be use hibernate.cfg xml name, that nothing name cannot be a change. Then it try to find that file only, and if we don't want to provide we want to change the file name, then we have to provide a file name as a complete classified as a string here. So configuration class have means this 2 method is there, so we can call any of them that method. So after that we are called build session factory method, and build session factory method is responsible to generate a session factory. So configure method, what is this? Configure method is responsible to this task. I just want to explain about this configuration. What is the configuration? All we already see that here in Hibernate core. So we converted the annotation configuration. So what is this annotation configuration? ACFG is equal to new annotation configuration, and we are calling this annotation configuration dot configure, and after that we are calling a build session factory. So this is a 3 line only where we are using a configuration part. So first we are instantiated during a default constructor. After that we are calling a configure method. After that we are calling a build session factory method. So this configuration object we are calling a configure method, and we are calling a build session factory method. So 2 method it is called here. So I just want to explain about this thing only, that whenever here this class object, when we created a class object, after that 2 tasks performing on that particular class object, we can call configure method, or we can call configure with parameterized complete classified path of Hibernate dot configure dot xml file, and we are calling a build session factory method that we already see. So here configure, when we are calling a configure method, then it is a read the data from Hibernate configuration object that I already told. If we put the by default path, will not provide anything, then it will take a by default path of our project. Either we can utilize a web project or Java project. The default location that will be go, and they will find hibernate.cfg.xml file. If naming change, then it will be throw a exception. So if we want to specify, means we want to store our configuration.xml file in some specific path, then we have to call this method, and here we have to provide complete classified path of that configuration file. So again, when we are calling a configure, this what happening? So it will be a read the data from Hibernate configuration object, means that .cfg.xml file, this file. When it start to read this file. So here all the information related to database. And read the data from all Hibernate mapping document specify in the configuration document. So after that, this configuration have the information of mapping. Either we will read the annotation, then we have the information related to particular mapping or Pojo class here itself. Either we will going to utilize that xml.hbm.xml, hibernate.hbm, or student.hbm, or customer.hbm. HBM means Hibernate mapping. So it will be start reading of that particular document also. After that, build session factory method is calling, that is responsible to generate a session factory object. So configuration or annotation configuration object is single thread and short lived. Why? Because we need this object in only one time. So multiple thread it's not work here, and it is a short lived because once the build session factory object is created, we are not going to utilize it. So it is a not longer utilization. So it is a short lived. So the same thing I explain here. Once the session factory object is created, then there is no use of the configuration or annotation configuration object. That reason it is a short lived. And yes, then second it will become a session factory. So what is a session factory? So a session factory is an interface available in org.hibernate package. Session factory object multi-thread and long-lived object, because it will be it have all information related to database. I already explained that one session factory object have all the information to one database. So if you want to create a multiple database, then we have to create a multiple session factory. So usually when we create a session factory, so what they are doing, that they perform this 4 tasks: set the default or many parameter like a batch size, fetch size, etc. So all related to database default thing that we going to initialize, that will be store all the default value related to that. After that, generate and that cache SQL query required, and select the connection provider that I told. Connection provider means database. So one session factory have one database information, so they will select the connection provider and select the transaction factory. So this task will be happen by session factory. I already explained that per database have one session factory. So whenever some situation will come like that, we created some application where we want to store some information in MySQL, some information in Oracle, or we want to store as a copy one in the same information in MySQL, same information is Oracle. Then this scenario we have to create a 2 session factory. In this scenario, how we'll do, we'll see here. I will explain. I will do the same task. Means I will explain through the lab also, but here it is very easy. I already explained about that how we will create a Hibernate util. That I explain about that how we'll create a static and how we'll return through the factory method. So here a static because we want to a singleton, because we don't want to a code duplication here, because this is a one time operation only. Once it will be complete, then we will always return the same object through that session factory. So what we are doing here, we have just created a static, means when the class will be load, this block will be load call that time only. After that, that block will never will execute. So class loading time only we will create this configuration object, and we will create that session factory, means build session factory. After that, we will return through that static get session factory method, and we will static because we will directly call Hibernate util dot get session factory. No need to instantiate that particular class. So same thing if we have a 2 database. Now it is a one database configuration. That one database configuration is available here, hibernate.cfg.xml. Now we have a 2 database connectivity. So what we will do here? So the same code, just try to understand what I try to explain here. So here same thing we created on Oracle factory and MySQL factory. So a static session factory and Oracle session factory, and a static session factory, MySQL session factory. So the same static here. So configuration I created new configuration where one Oracle cfd.xml is there, and where one MySQL.xml configuration.xml is there, and we will create this build session factory and build session factory. Now we have 2 session factory, SQL factory and Oracle factory. So when we will return, I will just write any code. It is a your logic. The very simple logic is there. Just int x, if x equal to 1, will return back Oracle, or else it's return back MySQL. You can change this code like here, string db, or when db equal to or dot equal anything like a MySQL, then just return a MySQL, else return a means you can write any kind of thing. I just want to explain about that. If we have the multiple database connectivity, then we have to create a multiple factory here, means session factory object, and through that this factory method we will return the particular. Through that we will ask some, we will send something like Oracle or something, and we will check that which factory we want to return. The next is a session. So session means one time duration where user can do multiple tasks, and session we will created through that session factory. So we have the session factory. So after session factory, when we call open session, then session will be created. So session object is a single thread and short lived, means one time duration where object want to do the some operation. Once operation is done, that will object will be destroyed. So session represent period of time where user can do multiple database operation. And when session object is created, what happening, that transaction factory to get the transaction and connection from connection provider. So two things is happening, and it's allowed to create a query object to retrieve a persistence object. Through that only we will create a queries also. We'll see that when we will write some SQL or QBC or KB query. After that, the last thing is their transaction. So till now we don't have any database connectivity, nothing. The all operation is happening in the local machine. So even the configuration, session factory, or this session, all the operation in the local machine only. Once the transaction is created and it is established, means that time only database operation is established and we can store our information is there. Then how it is happening, when transaction is started, the following task will be happen. One session cache will be created. So we are dealing with the cache only. So once the transaction is started, one cache is created and connection will be take and will be associated with the current session. While transaction is running, following task will happen. The session will be flushed, the session cache will be destroyed, and commit will be issued to the database, and connection will be released when transaction is closed. So when we will commit the data, means that that data will be pushed to the particular session cache, and session cache will be commit, means it will be transfer in the database, and that what object we want to store, that will be stored there. So this is the only basic information related to all the session, transaction and session factory. How will deal with the multiple database, and what is the configuration, what is annotation configuration, session factory, session, transaction. So I explain about a very deeply. Just go through that and try to understand this four thing, like a configuration, session factory, and session, transaction and all. Now I will start with the mapping here. So till now we already created a one core example, already we created one annotation example. So we'll start with this Hibernate mapping style. Simple mapping we already created, customer and a student we stored there. After that we will work on the collection mapping. We will create some collection related mapping, and we will try to store in the core as well as the annotation. So we will after that this theoretical explanation, I would like to go through that lab. We'll create some Java project, and we will see that how collection mapping is working. So we will see that mapping related part first. So I already explained that we have a various mapping styles. We can do the collection mapping, we can do inheritance mapping, we can do association mapping, we can do collection mapping. So now we will start with the collection mapping. So this is the Hibernate core lab 2 that I'm going to add some collection related information. I just store somewhere in table. So here what I am doing, one student Pojo class is there. So a student have SID, SNAME, DOB, qualification like BTech, MTech, anything, or course. So what course he want to prefer when he will come to the visual path, what course he want to prefer. So maybe the student want multiple courses, like he want Hibernate, he want Spring, he want Core Java, .NET, PHP, many courses he want to join. So all the information cannot be stored in the single string. That's the reason I created one array. So why I created a different kind of collection here? So we just try to understand if we create a string singleton means single dimensional array, then how will store that? If we create a list, then how will store that? If we have a set, then how will store that? Like that means how will map that. That's the reason I created a different kind of the collection object here. So this is a single dimension array, a string array, where all the course information is stored. So we have a list here that where we will store all the list, means if multiple email ID is there, then we can store the inside that list. Other than marks, means if he qualify that BTech, then how much marks he have. So maybe 20 or 25 different subject is there, that marks I would like to store under the list. Other than that set is there. So now the day people have a multiple phone numbers, we want to store under the set. Other than that map is there, so this is a reference, we will store that. So this just very simple information here. What would I would like to store that, and student information, that is a very simple information. SID, I would like to create a primary key here. This one is a primary key, and after that primary key, I would like to store course, that is a string, array, email, that is a list, marks, that is a list, phone, that is a set, and reference, that is a map. The key and value pair, key they will store like a string, and value is a long. Other than that, the same thing what before we are doing, we will do the same thing here. We will create a parameterize a constructor, but here we not utilize that primary key because that primary key I am going to generate automatically. That Hibernate support auto generation of primary key, so we not added the primary key here. So after that, this initialization, so this initialization, we just create a setter getter, that is optional, and to string. I just want to see that what the object is storing, then we will I already explained that what is the use of to string. So this is the very simple Pujo classes, but here the multiple table will be created, and all table will be attached with that particular primary key. So other than that, this we already know about that. So once you will write what I prefer that, so just create a two util classes. One util class you make the name is a C Hibernate util.java, where the code related like a configuration CFG is equal to new configuration, and CFG dot configure, that code you will write and return that configuration object. Other the same Hibernate util, you just write a Hibernate, means annotation Hibernate util dot java, where you will instead of using a configuration class, you use annotation configuration and return the annotation means session factory object. So this we already discussed many times. I think this is a very much clear now. And now what is this? We have to map it. So mapping related part you just need to understand here, because that is the only important part when we are means moving mapping related thing. All mapping information must be there in, if you use annotation, then that information will available in particular Pujo classes, or if we going to utilize this HBM means code related part, then all information is available in Hibernate means particular dot HBM dot XML. So now this is a core project, means core Hibernate like a 3.1. So here all information will be available on student.hbm.xml. So here what the information is there, the same thing. Hibernate mapping package is this Hibernate com dot visual part dot Hibernate, and this is a student, that name going to create a students, and this ID part, that primary key related, I am going to generate through that increment, and other property is there, all property like a simple thing is there, no collection, that S name, DOB and qualification, all are the very simple thing, S name, DOB and qualification, then no need to do anything, just we have to write property name or value type, so kind of thing, or it will be automatically type will not write that particular value and particular type. The thing will started here. How will means map the array, list, map, bag, extra, etc. So array, when we are going to store, so this is a course, name is a course, and it is a single dimensional string array. This is a single dimensional string array. So how we'll store that? We'll start with the array and the name something, and this information we're going to store somewhere in the different table. So what the table name is there, because if we map the same table, then means it will be create a more spaces, means we'll store the S name, and after that S name we will create a multiple column, that the column S name only the course have multiple thing, but other than S name have only one S, one name, only one DOB, one qualification, but course is the multiple. If we store the in table, just think about that, one column have the multiple information and other column have the one information, and it will be take the multiple means more space. So think about that, because of that only it is creating a new table. So once, and this table is mapped with the primary key. So here key equal to SID, means primary key is mapped with the SID, and index. Some index related part when we utilize like a list, array, then we will add index column. So index is ID something, any name you have to provide, and after that element, what the element we are going to utilize, we'll just add that. So this is a string. The same thing will happen with all the different kind of collection, but little bit only one thing will be there, somewhere have index and some not have the index, like a set not have an index, bag not have an index, but map, list, array means array kind of thing that have the index, they are mapping information in an index. Even you know the basic concept of Java, you understand that how set not have an index or kind of thing. So list, they are using an index kind of thing. So the same thing is here utilized. So we have to add the index. So here also added the index. So list is there. Other than this list or something, we have the one bag. So we can map our bag also. We'll see that what exactly difference between a bag and set or list. So set again do the same thing, but here index is not there. But map have a key and value both fair. Here we'll do the index and we will add the elements. So this is the mapping, very simple. You have to remember this thing. This is a simple pattern where you want to map some different list, set, map or a string, then we have to do like that. And after that we will see that this configuration, it is exactly same. Here nothing will change, only we are using annotation part, that's the reason resource is here. And yeah, now no change is there, only in the main part where main class we have to create that object, particular object, and we will save it. So a student object we have to create. So first we have to create this list email, list marks, set phone, and we'll create one map reference, and after that only we can call here. So the same thing I am doing here. I created this course Java JDBC JPA, after that email, I created this email, I created this marks, I created this phones and reference, and after that I just call this new student and pass that all thing, and after that just save. This is the information, means what is the save and what is in, it is just optional. This tx.commit and session.close, nothing is changed, only we want to store this mapping information, because we just before of that see that how the simple mapping is happening. Now we just try to understand how the collection mapping is happening. So I took all the information, means like a single dimension array, list, set and map, and how we'll store that. So just try to understand that here how we are mapping, and after that when we see that annotation part, we'll see that how through the annotation we will map the same thing. Here we just try to understand about the concept. Here list, the same kind of bag is there, list is there, bag we are not using index, but list we can use index, and here array is there, array we have an index, and map we have the index. So set not have a index. So we just remember this syntax only, and we can easily understand about that. And yeah, that done, and we will open that MySQL. Let's see that database. So databases, and we will use that, use visual path, visual path. So database changes, we'll check that how much table is there. So we have only 3 tables, customer, customer 1 and customer 2. Now we are going to deal with the student marks. So how many table is there? One student table is there. After that this course is there, email is there, marks is there, phone is there, reference is there. So we'll see that how the table is automatically created and how the information will store here. So I not did anything, just create the particular object and just call that student method. No changes here, same thing how we'll get the session factory, session factory transaction, and transaction.commit, transaction.rollback. The same we already did in 2 other project. Yeah, it's a little bit big, so they created a multiple tables, they inserted all the information. That reason it took little bit execution time, otherwise it will be very fast. So we'll see that here the information is stored or not. Before that we have a customer 1 and 2 and 3, and now we have some other. So other than that customer we have course, email, marks, phone, reference, student. That student main tables and all the collection information like a course, customer, marks, phone, reference and table. So we'll see that any our information is stored here not. Like a first student. So yeah, the student information is stored here. So SID equal to 1. So if we see that other table like emails and all, so that will be a map with that SID, that must be that 1 there. So we'll check that. Like a phones, so SID equal to 1114, all the primary key 1, but we have a 3 information. So SID will be repeated, but phone is 1. So it will be map with when we want to take that information, then we'll it will be a fetch like that, all SID which SID equal to 1, what the phone number, through that it will be a get. So now we'll see that that table is automatically created and we'll get all the information, and we just try to understand how much effort in the annotation part. So I already created this project because we don't want to waste your time. So here we have the same, let me check that, yeah. So this the same project is there where we going to utilize a annotations one. So here literally compare with that, and through that I think it is very easy to understand both the concept. So only the changes is there in here a student, we are map all the information, and we don't have this hbm.xml here. So that hbm.xml information moved here in this class. Other than all are the same, only a Hibernate util have annotation configuration, and before of that configuration is there. And one more changes is here. Here classes we are using, but here this type of classified path, but here resource is using this type of classified path. So here just changes in this Pojo entity classes. So we'll do that same thing. We mark with the entity, we will mark with the table, we provide a table name like a students one. So after that ID, same thing, because we are going to store this primary key. Generated value, we are use generated type equal to R2. Nothing is changed here. We already understand what how we means why we are added this annotation. This column name, up to that we already understand the concept. The same thing how we are add the before of that in the XML configuration here. So this is the course related thing is there, and how we'll add this course. We add array name equal to something, key, index, element, and all. So this, but here we are going to utilize this annotation. So we have to remember this annotation when we are going to do some collection operation, then we have to utilize this @collection of element. So it will be notify that we are going to utilize a collections. And after that join table. So what the table name will be here, that is a course 1, and join column, which column the means primary key want to join, that we have provided SID. After that what we provided index there, so index thing related will provide a index column. So here one index extra index will be created, and after that column, that name equal to course, and after that the same thing. The same thing is happening all. If we have a index, then we will add this index related part, index of column. Other than that collection not have the index, we just not provide that. Other than all are the same. So just remember about this annotation @collection of element, and we just have to map that, and no need to do anything, and it will be work as it is, that is a core is working. We will just try to see that it is working or not. Yeah, so our information is stored. So a student class is just, so now a student name is Amit. Now student name is Amit, and before of that what the student we created here, the student name is Santosh. So now we'll see that student table here. Now must be it will be a store, which is students. Yeah, that's the problem. We have a student 1 and a student. So now S name equal to Amit. So this is the very easy here when we map with the collection, or when we will deal with the some collection information like that. Yeah, like this. So we just have to map. Either we have to use a core, either we have to use annotation. We have to map in this way, XML configuration or the way of annotation configuration, and after that it is very easy to map it. So now we understand about that simple mapping and collection mapping. Next we will understand the inheritance mapping and association mapping. Inheritance mapping have a 3 class inheritance, and association mapping have one to one, one to many, and many to many. So one other two thing we have to add in the association map in direction wise, unidirection and bidirection. After that mapping part is done. Once the mapping part will be done, we will start to writing on mini projects. So through that we can understand that means how we'll deal with the Hibernate. So till now this is a fine. Just try to create different kind of structure that have a multiple collection utilization, and just try to store all the information in the database. Till now it's fine. Thanks for watching.